Welcome to Own Your Zone podcast, where we feature venture capitalists, innovators, angels, and other investors who create positive impact globally. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, I'm JiNan Glasgow George, a patent attorney, and I'm founder of Neo IP, a law firm that helps clients maximize their return on investment for patents, trademarks, and copyrights. I'm also host of the show where we feature venture capitalists, innovation-focused private equity companies, angels, early-stage investors, and serial entrepreneurs. I'm excited to bring this to you today, but first, a message from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Neo IP, where we help companies increase their valuation and protect their business through strategic business planning and IP protection. At Neo IP, we provide corporate and legal services to help manage risk, develop portfolios, and help companies monetize their IP assets. We believe that intellectual property is a valuable business asset with exceptional potential. Neo IP is here to protect that. Learn more about Neo IP at neoipassets.com. If you'd like to talk more about your business needs, please email us at admin@neoipassets.com. I have with me today Martin Rinkus. He is the founder and CEO of Smartvue Corporation. They were acquired by JCI, and he is head of innovation there. He's a serial entrepreneur, and his family are multi-generational inventors and entrepreneurs. Martin, welcome to our show.
Thank you, JiNan. It's awesome to be here and always great to see you.
Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about your journey. You've had many company starts and exits, and IP, intellectual property, has always been at the center of that.
Absolutely. It's a great question, something I'm very fond of speaking about. And I think, as an entrepreneur, I've started a number of different companies, and I've had a similar journey to most entrepreneurs. I mean, you have phenomenal success, you have phenomenal failure, you have horrible decisions and great decisions, and it's definitely a roller coaster that almost everybody would agree with. I think it all starts out with, as I've always told my kids, is what's the key to success in business? It's always creating value for other people. And creating values has to start somewhere. And for me, it's always started with, there's some idea, there's something where you're saying, I want to create value for people. And what is that idea? What is that unique thing? It's like, okay, I can create value for other people by mowing their lawns. And that's great. And I could go mow lawns and I could make a good living mowing lawns. But if I wanted to do something that was exceptional, something that was extraordinary, then thinking out of the box, what is that idea? What is that inspiration that might create exponential value? And that's where, inadvertently, I didn't even really know what IP was when I first started out. I mean, I'm not, unlike you, JiNan, with your experience, the reason I even got a patent to begin with is that a potential investor said, well, don't you have any patents? And I'm like, well, I guess I'll go get some of those things, whatever they are. They sound great. So it wasn't completely clueless, but the reality was I really didn't understand IP at all when I first started out. And I just thought it was a good idea to take this idea, this inspiration, and try to put some protection around it. And then certainly have grown, over the years to learn the phenomenal benefits of IP in so many different areas. But it started out really as this inspiration, this idea, and then an investor saying, hey, do you have any patents? And me saying, hey, let's protect this idea. So that's really, I think, where my relationship and semi-love affair with IP started.
Perfect. And you've experienced over the years how venture capitalists, how angel investors, how investors generally perceive IP. What have you learned there?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And as you know, IP is not simple. I mean, the benefits of IP are so many in so many different areas. And also IP itself is complicated. The difference between a good patent and a bad patent is 0 and 100 million. So it's a big and complex topic to talk about. And on the investor side, it's those same complexities come into play. And there's sophisticated investors who really understand the value of IP, and there's unsophisticated investors that go, "Oh, it's a patent. That's awesome. Great. I'll give you some money." So it really runs the gamut. But I've been very lucky on the investor side. First of all, I'm an idea person, and I love the creative side of it. So, patents and creativity for me just like go hand in hand. So it's a natural fit. So when it came to raising capital, and I've raised capital from angel investors, from venture, and from even in debt, and I'll talk to you about that here in a second. That IP for me has played a big role, because I'll start with, everybody knows the standard pitch deck: problem, solution, why we're different, here's the team, here's how you're going to make billions of dollars and we're the next unicorn. So it's like 4 slides. Everybody knows the basics. But when you start with the problem and then you talk about the solution, and then there's that other slide in there where you say, hey, our idea is unique and here's how we're protecting it and here's how we can leverage that. And that investors are looking for. So you came up with a unique idea, that's great, but as soon as you tell someone else, they're going to just take that idea. Yeah. And it's not as simple as that. Everybody knows that, but the reality is that somebody can. Large companies are always looking to innovate, and if they hear about something that makes sense for them and it's not protected, they'll just, I would do it running a big company. I'm like, hey, that's a great idea.
Ideas are free.
Somebody's idea, right? Yeah. I'm not going to steal somebody's idea, but if I hear about something, I go, that sounds great. We're going to add that feature into our product. So for me, meeting with investors and building not just one patent or a patent of a good idea, but building this kind of portfolio of patents. When
we got started, Martin, I'll never forget this. When we first got started working together, you called me, you were referred by another entrepreneur who knew both of us. And you said, I want to file a patent. And after we were done talking, I said, are you sure that's one patent, Martin? I think that's several patents. And you were like, well, that's going to cost a lot of money. And I remember asking you, go back to the venture capital friends that you have and ask them, is it better to have one patent or maybe 5 or 10 patents? And you did that. And I think you called me the next day. Is that right?
Yeah, the answer was definitely to create this moat. You don't just want one patent on one idea. You want to kind of create this protective blanket around all of your ideas and how they work together. And certainly a lot of things I was done was in the platform space. So it touched a lot of different technologies. So, building a portfolio is phenomenally valuable, not only because you're protecting more of what you do, but also it gives you more value. Let's say, one of your patents ends up being a lot more valuable than the other. So you're kind of spreading your bet a little bit as well.
Yeah, we work a lot with software companies. An early software company that I worked with, we picked up after another large law firm they were working with, but just kind of filing everything, which isn't usually helpful. And you can burn a lot of capital that way. When we came in, we looked at the portfolio and found like less than half of all the patents they had filed had any relation to their product roadmap or what they're going to offer. So strategy plays a role. You have to make choices, right? As you're early and even as you grow.
Yeah, I learned so much from you, JiNan, over the years. And some of those first conversations for me were definitely eye-opening. And it was, you want to maybe consider not just filing one patent, build a portfolio. And the second thing is this strategy. Let's not think about where you are today or just this one idea you have, but what's going to happen 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And one day when you sell your company or as you're raising capital, what really makes sense? So there's a lot of input. And also from the investor side, I want to say probably one of the most exciting things for me was that we took investment against our patent portfolio as debt. So that wasn't that interesting. So I had one of my board members said, hey, you're trying to raise money. Let's not dilute the company with equity. Let's take a loan against our patent portfolio. I've never heard of anyone doing this before.
And only against the IP, right?
Yeah, only against the IP.
Only against IP.
So that was very interesting. And so that company valued the patent portfolio, put a really nice value on it. and gave us terms of a deal where we borrowed money against the patent portfolio, which was really an interesting way to do it as well. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, I always say don't take debt. So there's positives and minuses to those kinds of deals. But it's just interesting. It helps with angels, because angels go, oh, that's interesting. You've got patents, and they probably don't know a lot about patents. Angel investor, they just think, oh, you invested the time to try to protect your IP. Venture certainly understands the value of patents, and they'll look at your portfolio or look at your patents. And then certainly these things like debt and unique other ways to raise capital.
We worked together with some visualization of patent context around you. How helpful was that to see where other companies were investing in IP? That was a former software business, NeoPatents, and then you've worked with us a little on patent forecast, magic number. How helpful is that to be able to have this big picture, a way to visualize what's happening around you? And really have like detailed data to back that up? Was that helpful for decision making? Was it helpful for communication? How did you use that?
Yeah. So when we were strategizing about the patent portfolio, I was naively thought, okay, I've got some great ideas. I think I had 52 ideas. I had 50 ideas or something like that, where I said, this is unique. No one else in the industry is doing it. You don't really know. I mean, I do some basic research, go on Google and go, I have this idea and this product does this, this, and this, and you search for it and nobody has it. And I was assuming, okay, that's great. We're good. Let's go file a patent. And that's certainly not true at all. It's not even remotely true. So this technology that you have, this patent matrix, and they're working with NeoPatents. And for me, I'm a very visual person. So seeing what we did is we would put these ideas out in a matrix, and you could say, oh, here's Apple, here's all the patents they've filed, and here's the areas they're focusing on, and here's IBM, and this is the area they're going in, and here's any other potential competitor, current competitor, wherever I'm going to play in the marketplace, where I think the future is going to go. We would put those companies in their portfolios. And then you can also just see the patents and where they fall and what areas they go to. And it's a phenomenal tool, because you can say, okay, I'm looking at this broad portfolio and I can see clearly there's a gap here. Nobody's focusing on this gap, and this is the gap I want to focus in. So that adds a lot of value there as you make these decisions, because, okay, I've got enough budget to, let's say, file 5 or 10 patents. And which 5 or 10 do I want to file? And well, you're going to file those ones in that gap, because your competitors aren't in that gap. So that's one way that we used it. And the other way was having the IP report, the NeoPatents IP report, and then how our portfolio fit in there and helped with the valuation. Like, because an investor is going to go, how much are your patents worth? And you need to have something to back that up,
We've evolved just like you have. So now patent forecast, it's like weather, it changes every week. So we update it really regularly, and we have had good feedback about that. But you always appreciate, because you're a serial entrepreneur at heart, you're a creator, you're an innovator. And it's so critical for the early stage to get the right patent assets filed. Every single one counts, right? And you're prioritizing and you have a budget. How is it different now that you're in a larger company? I know larger companies have larger portfolios and larger budgets. Do you see value still in strategy and using data?
Absolutely. So I work at Johnson Controls. I'm not the head of innovation. I'm a VP of technology architecture. But I am involved very heavily in innovation. And we have multiple engineering teams. It's a 23 billion revenue company. So we have a whole bunch of different areas that we play in, and we invest heavily in innovation. We encourage all of our employees to be part of the innovation team. There's patent bounties. So if you're an employee at Johnson Controls, you say, I got a great idea. And then you can tell one of our patent leaders about it, and they'll review it and think if it's a great idea, then you file. And if you file something, you get paid. And if it gets granted as a patent, you get paid. So there's some really exciting inspiration that the company builds around IP. But from a pretty high level, you could almost say the strategy's even more important. I mean, a startup's life or death can roll on a patent, but with a large company, protecting your intellectual property could be protecting all that $23 billion worth of revenue. So how Johnson Controls invests in, builds IP teams. It's really been fantastic to watch. Because we're a larger company, of course, we have larger budgets. So we have a team that's involved in IP. So that makes it a little more organized with more people behind it, as opposed to being in a startup or something. But it's exciting.
I love that your family has such a rich history of inventing and innovating. Your father, yourself, you have two sons who are both inventors with patents. And now you're working with Vanderbilt University, I understand. So tell us a little bit about your vision for the future generations for innovating.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So I'm a first generation American. Both my parents came here at the end of World War II from Latvia, and my father was a chemical engineer, and he very much was an idea person as well. He worked for a couple of chemical companies, and then he started his own business. It was interesting. This is an interesting part of the story, which I haven't told you yet, JiNan. So he had a whole bunch of things he was in. So he had this chemical company that he ran. It was in plastics and for coatings and things. And he never filed patents there. Now you go, why? Why don't you file patents there? Because these were all chemical ingredients, and he felt that had he exposed the exact chemical ingredients of his technology, that he might be putting his company at risk. So very interesting, right? He doesn't file patents there, but he does file patents in gas exploration. So he did quite a bit of drilling for natural gas, and he had a bunch of gas wells all over. It turned to be a pretty good business for him. And he filed a pretty extensive number of patents in the gas well area because he thought, wow, this is fantastic. I'm doing this in a very, very unique way, and I'm going to protect this. So he started filing patents. And then, of course, you and I work together, and I think I have like 73 patents now, something crazy like that.
Prolific inventor. Yeah.
and all about that just kind of idea monkey thing. And then my kids, Alex and Will, who are both college students, they're always interested in, what does dad do? Everybody's pretty interested in what their parents do for a living, and they're idea monkeys as well. So they kind of go, hey, dad, what if this, and what if that, and what if this, and I thought it'd be a good experience for them to understand like how a patent works.
Yes.
And I said, well, look, if you're willing to put up a little money towards this, I'll put up a little money, and why don't you go through the process of filing a patent? So both kids did that, and they worked with you, JiNan. That was a lot of fun.
I love working with students. Yeah.
And they learned a lot. It was a phenomenal experience for them. And obviously it was also on their college resume. So very selfishly, I was thinking, hey, this will look good on your application for college that you did something in the IP space.
But that priceless experiential learning, like going through, how do you take an idea and make it into an asset? Yeah.
Right. And what is an asset? I mean, these really, like me, I didn't learn until I was in my 30s. These guys in their teens now understand what an IP asset is. So I think our world will hopefully be a better place. And today I'm at the Vanderbilt incubator called Launch. This is a fantastic new directive by the Chancellor Diermeyer of Vanderbilt. We have some master mentors here, and a fellow named Stryker Warner who runs this whole program. We have 7 companies that are inside of this incubator, and there's going to be another 6 companies that we're bringing in. So I spent some time here at the incubator working with students, and these are students and faculty, and they don't have to be from Vanderbilt. They can be really from anywhere in the country. They can apply to be part of this incubator here in Nashville. It's a phenomenal program, and Stryker's done a fantastic job bringing in great resources to help these people. So I get to spend time here with young people, with students, with faculty, and talk to them about everything from fundraising to technology to IP, and passing on this whole wonderful experience about how IP can affect your business. And a lot of them don't know anything.
Yeah, you're such an inspiration, Martin. I appreciate you joining our podcast today. You're terrific. Where could our listeners learn more about you? On LinkedIn or a website? Where could they find you?
You can look me up, Martin Renkis on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help out anybody who's listening. And of course, I work for Johnson Controls. You can check out their website. Just a phenomenal company that I have a lot of pride working for. So.
Yeah. Fantastic. It's been a joy to have you on, Martin. You're a good friend, an amazing serial entrepreneur and innovator. Thank you so much.
You're a good friend. Thanks, JiNan. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Own Your Zone podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.